Namaste, viewers, and welcome to this edition of Amazing Vedas with Dr. Parikshit Singh. Thank you, Dr. Singh, for joining us. If you've seen our previous episodes, these are being recorded, to commemorate the International Day of Yoga, which is the 21st of June. And we hope to post them in time for this commemoration or, a little bit ahead or before. But the point being that we're trying to look at yoga, which is now a widely prevalent, practice as well as philosophy. People are getting introduced to it all over the world, and the Vedas, And we had a preliminary conversation about Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga and the Veda. And Dr. Singh was trying to show us how most of the 8 limbs of Vedas are already present or inherent or in seed form in the Vedas. Now we'll jump to another very important text, which we've already talked about a bit briefly at least, which is the Bhagavad Gita, the most beloved of India's sacred texts, the most translated of India's sacred texts, and presided over by the most beloved of all Indian deities, Sri Krishna, the Purushottama, who represents love, but love in action. He's also Yogeshwar. He's a dear friend of Arjuna. We all want to be Arjunas at our own level. And there is this dialogue with the Lord himself. I mean, how much friendlier can you get? He's not some, unapproachable deity somewhere very far away, but he comes down to our level. He becomes our charioteer. He's guiding us in our daily struggles. And each one of us has daily struggles. So this beautiful text revealed by Lord Krishna himself. And I must tell you, Dr. Singh has been teaching this text verse by verse to very senior students who are professionals, who are very successful. So we invite you to check them out, these teachings, these lectures on our Auroveda channel. We have a whole playlist of his lectures on the Gita. But Dr. Singh, without further ado, the yoga of the Gita and the yoga of the Vedas, what is the connection between them?
They are absolutely fascinating. I think my impression is that they are both very integral in their approach. In fact, by the time Sri Krishna comes, it seems as if the yoga or the knowledge of the Veda had branched off into various paths. It seems like there was Sankhya, there was yoga, there was the Veda itself, the Vedavada, and then the Brahmavada of the Upanishads, and then karma and jnana somewhere got separated, and then bhakti was beginning its tentative movements, although there is bhakti in the Veda, but not the intense bhakti that comes much later. And to me, it seems as if Sri Krishna brings them together in the spirit of the Veda. Obviously not, it would be a waste or tautologous to try to repeat the same thing again. But again, it's the vast vision of a great yogi, a great human being with a very wide consciousness who can assimilate the different paths, who is not reductive or who is not an exclusivist, that this is it. This is all you're going to follow and everyone has to follow. A Sankhya yogi will say, this is the only truth and follow this. I hope they don't say that, but that would be the approach, total focus on that. Or a Brahmavadi would be, say, Upanishads. The truth is in the Upanishads. At the end, it's the Vedanta, the end of the Veda, and Vedanta is the highest truth. But Sri Krishna brings them together, and actually it's very interesting. He makes karma the fulcrum, the pivotal thing of where the jnana and the bhakti are truly tested. It's the crucible, and he does not let Arjuna leave. He makes Arjuna fight, and this fight is probably the most important thing to me, because I love the whole idea of it. Not that I want people to fight, but the fighting for the truth is there in the Veda in a very powerful manner. This battle, this sense of battling the Dasyus, the dark forces, the slaying of Vritra, slaying of Vala, fighting against the Panis, and to take on the challenge of crossing the Bhavasagara, or this Advarya, this whole journey that you have to take, and until you reach the point where you discover immortality, discover the truth, discover the light. That is also a battle that you're waging within. And so, to me, it is a similar theme that Sri Krishna takes on. And I think it was Ganapati Muni who showed that Mahabharata itself is heavily influenced by the Vedic scripture, or the Shruti. I have not read it. This is what I have found, but it seems that he showed the parallels between the Mahabharata and the Veda. But without going there, I at least know the Gita. I'm not an expert on the Mahabharata, but the Gita is a Vedic text for sure. It uses the organization, the style of the Veda, though on a microscopic scale rather than the 10,500 bricks of the Veda. It's 700, like a compact. But the structure, the organization, the recursive movements, the musical approach is all Vedic. And then he will take a concept, he will take another level, he'll explain it, he'll transform it. Then he will often come back, he will reference himself, then he'll reference the Upanishads or other shlokas, and then he will go back again and he'll open it up again to a new understanding. And then again he'll go back. It's a very interesting way of, almost it's a musical progression, which is what we find in the Veda. It's just they take motifs and they build on it. And to me, that whole literary organization is quite similar. It's a musical organization rather than just a lyrical organization, or even a narrative building. It is not. It is a narrative, but it goes beyond the narrative. At every shloka, you have moved beyond the narrative. You can just stay with that shloka for 5 years and just practice that shloka, and it's complete in itself. And yet, there is a movement forward, like almost like a symphony. So I know there's so much to talk about the Gita, comparing it with the Veda, but I would probably say that it's an integral vision, integral mind. It's a very vast and complex harmony that he's bringing in, and to be able to. The Gita also is a very complex text. It is not simple. We oversimplify it, but it changes, it modifies according to your own consciousness as you move in understanding, and it works at multiple levels. So it's a multi-dimensional approach. And so I don't know, my words fail when I try to describe the Gita or the Veda.
Yeah, I was actually fascinated by your reference to Kavyakantha Ganapati Muni, because, the Mahabharata, though I haven't studied that particular reference, but as you know, the Mahabharata was often called the fifth Veda. So any text or any master, system would carried forward, the insights or the knowledge of the Veda, because we've already said right at the start that the Veda is not just a bunch of books or compendiums or mantras, it's knowledge itself. So any text or system that became highly sophisticated or highly conducive to human evolution was given the honorific Veda. So Mahabharata was called the fifth Veda, Ayurveda was called the fifth Veda, even the Natya Shastra of Bharat Muni, an aesthetic text, was called the fifth Veda. So that's one connection. But the Gita in some ways is what, in my view, makes the Mahabharata a Veda, because without that Gita component, though it's full of other forms of wisdom, but the most concentrated form of wisdom in the Mahabharata is the Bhagavad Gita, which is also a standalone text. And as you said, every shloka of the Gita is a standalone shloka, and you can, as you said, meditate on it for years on end, and it vibrates inside you. It's transformative. And at the same time, it's a part of a bigger narrative, which is also true of the Vedic riks, of the Vedic mantras. They are standalone, and yet they are a part of a very big corpus. And each one of them, like a hologram, gives you a miniature or a, condensed or compressed form of everything. But, to focus our conversation I wanted to ask you, see, Patanjali says yoga, chitta vritti nirodha. And Krishna says, yoga karmasu kaushalam. Now, this karmasu kaushalam is like the Veda because they want you to be skillful in action. They want you to excel. So, would you want to link up how karmasu kaushalam is very Vedic?
It is. The yoga of Sri Krishna is very supple, very liberal, very wide, very dynamic. There is no insistence on asanas. There's no way Arjuna is going to do an asana in that middle of that war. So probably the only asana is how to pick up your bow and arrow and start firing them, firing those missiles at the enemy. But it is full of activity. In fact, it is over active, because here is a war that is it's not even an inner war. This is a gory, terrible,
World war.
sanguinary.
It's a world war.
It's a world war, and probably humanity's first world war, at least described, one that's described. And it is brutal. And right there, he's pushing him to fight. He's egging on. With our modern sensibility, we would probably say, okay, let's have a truce. No, you're going to fight. And this is very Vedic. The warrior mentality of the Vedic rishis, the concept of the Aryan digging into the ground and building himself and refining himself out of that ground, and through that ground, finding through that Sanu or the Adri, finding the light and being victorious and becoming immortal and enjoying the earth and the heaven. And so that comes back again and again in the Gita. And that is absolutely the Vedic spirit, which I
Exactly,
think, brings it
exactly.
back.
And yet, as you said, when you want to, shoot that arrow, your mind has to be still because there has to be, no disturbance. The dharana, the dhyana, the concentration has to be unbroken. And so you see how Patanjali's chitta vritti nirodha and that state of flow and the skill in action. I mean, Krishna wants you to excel in whatever you take up. There is no restriction on
Yes.
your chosen vocation, but try and do it really well. There again, fire in the belly. And then I want to ask you one more thing, and then we can close this episode, which is that obviously the Gita has many, many definitions of yoga, but another one that I always go back to is Samatvam Yoga Uchyate.
Samatvam yoga.
So, win or lose, day or night, you know, happiness or sorrow, the Sthitaprajna's qualities, that the stoicism, I find that very admirable. That actually to be stoical, you have to be very passionate because, see, what you have to tell yourself is, it's like saying, why are you identifying with this victory and why are you jumping around, or why are you down in the dumps when things haven't gone your way? So would you like to talk about that definition of yoga and see if the Vedas also have has some of that spirit of balance and samatvam,
So
equanimity?
equanimity, yes. So I think it is there. So it's very interesting. The Vedic approach is Vishnu and Rudra. They go together. They're almost the same, almost. And Sri Aurobindo has pointed this out. Vishnu is the nice, kind, gentle, wide presence, and Rudra is fearsome. Even the rishis, the only devas the rishis are afraid of is Rudra, because Rudra is fire. He makes you cry. That's why his name is Rudra. His howls and he roars, but he's also the shining one, the red one, the rude. And but they are almost the same. Constantly we come to this. And so we see that balance of Vishnu, the wideness, and then the fire of Rudra. We see that again in the balancing. You see the yin and the yang of Agni and the Soma. Agni and Indra. Indra, who is a warrior, but Indra, who is also brilliant. He has everything under control. When Indra creates a form, that form will be rolled out in the external world along the other lower lokas, right? The aparardha, it will happen. So again, that balance is brought out. But I believe that Sri Krishna is dealing with very simple concepts. He's not talking about symbols. Arjuna is not going to take on symbols. He's not going to do poetry. He has no idea, no
He
interest
has
in.
no time. He has to fight a
He
war.
has to fight a war. So give me something I can hold on to. Give me a dharma. That's it. Forget it. So do it very well and do it with samatha. And in the second chapter, he brings it out. That's it. You want to do it's actually the Gita is over at the end of the second chapter. It's only Arjuna has to go back and say, no, hold on. I'm not sorted out yet. Sort me out. That he really builds up. But he has given the essence from shloka 2.11 to 2.72. He's given the essence. But then, of course, then he has to build his world, the Gita, the world of the Gita. But within that first chapter, he has given these yoga, karmashu kaushalam, and samatvam yoga uchate. Both are given, and this is, if that's all you have, you can live a whole life by itself. But to me, it is a very practical advice. He's almost taken the Vedas, 10,500 shlokas, said, okay, let me make a summary, maybe distill it, cliff notes it, make some, gutka of it, and then say, okay, this is the manual of action. This is the gospel of karma yoga, and just go with it. I'll give it to you in essence and just take it. That's how I take it. And I think Sri Krishna's vision and vast awareness and accomplishments are would be as important. They're definitely important to us, but in probably the prehistoric world, the achievements of a Vishwamitra or a Vashishta were as important in those times. So at least that's what Kapali Shastri says. So if we believe him, then Krishna has brought it back as a new rishi himself, and he has brought that word and given it to us, given us a simple summary of the Veda.
Indeed. And in our next episode, probably next week, we will talk about integral yoga. You heard that phrase being spoken of several times, and it's actually a segue, or it presages what Sri Aurobindo was trying to do. But by way of concluding this episode, friends, I thought, whenever you come across good cop, bad cop, and, you can find it in your boss, you can find it in Dr. Singh himself, he can beat you up, or he can be very soft and gentle. Remember, it's the play of Ida and Pingala, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but you have to find the Shushumna Nadi. So from yoga, we're going to Tantra, but yoga Tantra are similar. It is the Shushumna Nadi, the balance that you find when both these, you see, the id and the superego, as Freud called them. Freud was a yogi, by the way, and he wanted to find the balance. The ego was meant to balance, the id, the seat of desire, of passion, and the superego constantly telling you not to do something, the seat of prohibition. So, Freud also wanted us to be, should I say, balanced and well-developed yogis who could reconcile these opposing forces. So, with those words, thank you for joining us today, and please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Follow us on X, Amazing Vedas, and do send in your comments. I think that we'd be happy to take up some of the questions that you have about the Vedas or about the Gita, or indeed about Sri Aurobindo and his wonderful, I would say, intervention in helping us reconnect with our deepest selves. Thank you, namaste, and see you again.